It's NFL Week 11, and Tommy DeVito's family is going to have a lot to talk about at Thanksgiving, but we are here to talk about deep waiver additions. As always, we use a 50% sleeper rostership threshold, but we cheat on that as well because we want to point out the important additions that might land just above that. Rico Dowdle, running back from Dallas, at 56% sleeper rostership. He is a must add in most any leagues because Dallas has been searching for an answer for their running game and to try to find the player that Tony Pollard was entering 2023. And so this was the first game where we really saw a meaningful split between Dowdle and Pollard. And so Dowdle had 12 rushes while Pollard had 15 rushes in this game. Neither saw a target. The running backs were not used in the passing game for Dallas this week. They weren't particularly needed in the passing game against the Giants this week, but this might be the first real sign that we have that Dallas might look to get back to that split that we saw with Ezekiel Elliott and Pollard in years past, keeping Pollard a little bit fresher to use as that change of pace back, with Dowdle being that back that can handle a little bit more inside. So you want to add Dowdle in any league right now because he has the ability to be a league shifting player like we saw with Elliott down the stretch last year. He got a goal line touchdown at the end of this game. So if he gets into that role with Elliott, we know that running back 2 and better performances are potentially there in an offense that does seem to be clicking right now. Tight end Tanner Hudson from Cincinnati, 7% sleeper rostership. He's a player we mentioned last week, but now he really kind of arrived on the scene this past week. He had 7 targets in this game. He led the pack in all the tight ends, and the Bengals have been searching for that complement receiver at tight end. Hudson seems to be the latest candidate, and Irv Smith has, while still drawing a significant snap share, has lost favor in the passing game. Drew Sample is the other tight end that saw meaningful snaps in this game, but he is very established as a blocker at this point. Hudson has that upside to be a receiver. He is on his 4th team in the last 3 years, and he's 29 years old, so this is by no means a deep dynasty stash. But if you're in a best ball league, if you're searching for an answer at the tight end position, Hudson is worth adding if you've had the roster space in a deep enough format. Again, he's establishing himself as that receiving threat out of the tight end position. 12 targets over the last 2 weeks, and that far outpaces Sample and Irv Smith Jr. So take an addition there. Tanner Hudson with Cincinnati. A.T. Perry from the New Orleans Saints at 48% sleeper rostership. Perry did not have a snap until week 8, and he didn't have a target before week 10, but he caught a touchdown in this game, and with Michael Thomas leaving with injury, he led all Saints wide receivers in snaps. His physicality is a natural complement for the types of routes that Michael Thomas has been used in the past, and he fits well with Rashid Shaheed and with Chris Olave primarily as that complementary receiver. He got an end zone target that he was able to convert for a touchdown this week, and Michael Thomas is expected to miss some time. So make sure to check out all of Adam Hutchinson's injury updates with Football Guys, and he will let you know how long Thomas should be out. But while he's out, Perry is a player that is a must add in any format because the Saints don't have that real true 3rd, 4th receiving option outside of Perry. He was drafted this past year and he really had a strong camp before missing the early part of the season. Add him as a stash. Wait and see and monitor, and he might be a player you can plug into your lineup regularly. But as Thomas enters a stage where he might not be a part of the Saints anymore, there have been rumors for the last couple of years of him wanting to leave New Orleans, and his contract sets up so that it might be best for the Saints to move on there. Perry is a long-term potential solution. So you want to make sure to add Perry in your dynasty leagues wherever he is available. Wide receiver Kyle Phillips from Tennessee, 36% sleeper rostership. He's had back-to-back 60-yard weeks. He led all Tennessee receivers in yards in this game. He's a little bit stuck because he's primarily a slot receiver, and Tennessee is not a high-volume passing attack. They do love to play 2 tight end sets and go heavy with Derrick Henry and using Tajay Spears out of the backfield. But when Phillips comes in, he is seeing usage. He was 4th in wide receiver snaps for this game, but again, led the team in yards, back-to-back weeks over 60 yards. And as they search for a complement outside of DeAndre Hopkins, Phillips is a natural slot receiver, natural with the ball in his hands, and they need to get him more opportunity, and he is a deep roster stash for you. Xavier Gipson from the New York Jets, 8% sleeper rostership. We've seen Gipson step up, and he really claimed that third receiver role for the New York Jets. He far outpaced Malik Taylor with just as the fourth receiver. And so Gipson is the type of player that can attack downfield. We saw him make plays in this game vertically. We've seen him used in the reverse game. We've seen him used in the screen game. He is a very explosive player, natural return man that can operate with the ball in his hands. So the ability to stretch the field as a complement to Garrett Wilson and Alan Lazard, but also to serve as an outlet in the screen game is all there for Gipson. Long term, this is wide open for a wide receiver to emerge in the New York Jets system, given Lazard's age and the ability that the team could move on from him and plug Gipson right into that role. And so Gipson is a great deep stash. Obviously, with Zach Wilson at quarterback, the ceiling is going to be lower on a New York Jets passing attack. Now, they dropped on Sunday night that Aaron Rodgers could be back in mid-December. So if that does happen, that would raise the ceiling naturally on the offense. But Gipson is a great stash, a player that can add value throughout the offseason. Another player that could add value throughout the offseason that is only a deep speculative add right now is Emanuel Wilson from Green Bay at 24% sleeper rostership. Wilson is a speculative add as a running back. He's an undrafted free agent. He's seeing minimal snaps right now, but he is seeing some snaps. And when you look at Green Bay's backfield, moving forward, A.J. Dillon is going to be a free agent after this year. And while the Packers could certainly re-sign A.J. Dillon, keep him in the fold, if they were to move on, this is a team that notoriously sits out free agency. So you could be presented with a situation where you stash Wilson now, Dillon moves on in free agency, and then between February until the NFL draft, Wilson accrues value just sitting on your roster as the dynasty community starts to realize that he would be in line to be that second back with Green Bay. That presents a great opportunity that you could potentially move on from him, recoup some draft capital, or move around in that draft. And that's the type of deep stash that you want right now, especially in rebuilding leagues, players that can accrue value as we enter the offseason. And Wilson from Green Bay is a great move there. Last up is Kene Nwangwu from Minnesota, 12% sleeper rostership. This may as well just read as Vikings placeholder running back because they've been very hesitant to involve Nwangwu on offense, but we saw Alexander Mattison leave with injury in this game, and Cam Akers leaving with injury for the rest of the season last week opens that running back room wide up. The only other back besides Nwangwu and Mattison on the lineup right now is Ty Chandler, who did play well in this game, scoring a touchdown. Ty Chandler would be the primary beneficiary. But if Alexander Mattison were to miss time, you need to monitor the roster moves from this backfield and see where they go, who they add, because this presents an opportunity with Joshua Dobbs performing well in a potential high ceiling offense. So while Nwangwu might just be a placeholder right now, monitor that injury situation from Alexander Mattison and monitor the roster movement from the Minnesota Vikings and see where they end up there. Thank you as always for listening. Good luck with your roster moves this week, and good luck going for that championship down the stretch.